PNC News First is presented by the Bank of Guam, the People's Bank. Pizza Hut, we're taking pizza to where it's never been before. Taco Bell, the only place where you live Moss. Colgate, the #1 brand recommended by dentists. And IT&D.
PNC News First, broadcasting live in high definition from Tumon, Guam, on KEQI and KTGM, and on KPPI on Saipan. Here is your PNC News team.
Half a day you're watching PNC's News First. We're live from our broadcast center in Akanta. I'm Ayana Shed. Thanks for tuning in. Topping our newscast tonight, prompting a series of public safety community meetings, the highly publicized case involving the machete attack in Manilao will begin trial on Friday. Attempted murder, aggravated assault, terrorizing, and criminal mischief, to name a few, are charges being levied against Emmanuel Resalap and Jordan Rachulap. Trial for the two young men will begin early Friday morning, as the government intends to prove that the suspects are responsible for the machete attack in Manilao last June. Resalap is accused of stabbing an individual with a machete. He, along with Rachulap, are also accused of striking motorists' vehicles with machetes and rocks. A jury now empaneled legal counsels will begin trial with opening statements explaining what the evidence will or will not show, followed by testimony from approximately 24 witnesses and 8 victims. The trial is anticipated to take roughly 10 days before jury instructions and deliberations commence. It will then be up to the jury to weigh the evidence and come to a verdict. Trial starts at 8:30 a.m. With budget talks in the spotlight, we turn to the Veterans Affairs Office, which, like many other government agencies, is facing a proposed budget cut. PNC's Jolene Tovis with this report.
$1 million. That's how much money veterans are asking VA Director Fred Berdalio to request for in the 2020 fiscal year budget. But realistically, based on GovGuam's finances, Berdalio had only anticipated receiving $715,000. But that too has been cut down to a little over $600,000. So we sat down with Berdalio to see how veterans are reacting to the news of the proposed budget cut.
The Veterans Commission, Brian Miranda, who's the chair, John Atulai Taitsino, who's the vice chair, and I believe Barry Meat was there, and some members, but they didn't have enough quorum. But we still proceeded because I wanted to explain to them. They asked me about, wasn't the original request from the governor at $715,000? I go, yes. And I explained to them the budget process isn't over yet. Now I explained to the Veterans Commission, this budget for the Veterans Office budgets our staffing at the Veterans Office. So if we looked at the trends of the Veterans Office here, with about roughly, it fluctuated between 8 to 9 employees, sometimes 10, back to 7 employees. No director of the veterans or administrator of veterans ever called for $1 million budget to finance 8 people or 7 people. All right, not one. That's my response to the suggestion from the vice chair of the veterans budget to ask for $1 million.
He says the budget trend since FY14 to FY19 is in the $600,000 range. In fact, in 2019, the VA was appropriated $603,000, but only operated on a budget of about $400,000. Berdalio says that despite the possibility of the VA office getting $100,000 less for fiscal year 2020, they will still be able to live within their means.
Now, I explained to the Veterans Commission that as people are watching this budgeting process, I don't want to get, with my particular plans, I don't want the people, the policymakers to say, well, since Director Berdalio survived with a $403,000 budget in making sure his staff were all paid, maybe he could still stay at maybe we should cut it down from 550 down to 400 since he survived.
Berdalio says the budget is about making sure the staff at the VA's office are paid and trained. The VA office relies on two funding sources: appropriated funds from the general fund and non-appropriated funds through Bank of Hawaii, which reimburses the VA for the Veterans Cemetery. In addition to this, there is also the Veterans Fund. Berdalio says despite the new proposed budget at $600,000, his plans and visions for the VA are not on the chopping block. As you may recall, Berdalio is implementing an auxiliary workforce component, which volunteers would be paid a stipend for their contributions. Meanwhile, plans to move the VA office to a new facility or Veterans Center is still in the works.
The main point I tried to stress to the Veterans Commission is that this appropriate funding, this from our budget, is really the crucial thing is to fund our staffing here. So it's unrealistic to ask for $1 million. But I'll tell you this, as I did the transition here, Jolene, I was looking at the different public laws that have been passed in recent years, all the way back. We have several public laws that have passed that have benefit veterans.
Taking this into consideration, while veterans are not going to see $1 million budget appropriated to the VA, looking at all the programs for veterans throughout the government of Guam, he says cumulatively, veterans are getting what they asked for money-wise, adding that when it comes to the VA's budget, it's about managing the funding and doing something creative to reduce government expenses like cost sharing or thinking outside of the box when it comes to hiring essential employees. Jolene Toves, PNC News. A slashed budget isn't the only tension rising among veterans, as some members of the VA Commission have expressed a lack of confidence in VA Director Fred Berdalio's ability to head the department. Some are even calling for his resignation.
Well, first of all, I'm disappointed if that's the kind of conversations they have in the Veterans Commission.
He says the idea of the Veterans Commission came from the late Senator Tony Ampingo, who envisioned a commission that would be an advisory body to the Veterans Affairs Director. But with the current commission memberships in shambles and veterans not being allowed to join unless they are part of a veterans-affiliated nonprofit organization, he questions who makes up the rules and why close the doors on veterans.
Let's get away with this parochial conversations of we're here to bash not only me, but my predecessor had gotten bashed, and then his predecessor got bashed. Every veterans director that I've talked when I did my transition from Jose San Agustin to Martin Manglonia and John Ampinco, I'll tell you this. They've said that this veteran, John Ampinco, I believe, even put it on record to Governor Calvo that the Veterans Commission has never met in 2 years. On that last meeting at Adelaide, even the current elected chair, Brian Miranda, says, I'm only going to give myself 4 months. And then if it doesn't work, I'm out of here. That doesn't sound like commitment. And I'll tell you this, that the current commission, Mr. Brian Miranda, John Atulai Taitano, and Barry Mead, they don't speak in behalf of 10,000 veterans here. There are veterans that are here that says they don't represent them.
Berdalio recalls a statement allegedly made by VA Commission member Barry Mead, who alluded to wanting to use a letter from Governor Lou Leon Guerrero to VA Secretary Robert Wilkie inappropriately.
He saw that letter and is going to use it for, and I don't want to get a little bit derogatory, something of a restroom kind of like thing. And I think that was uncalled for. And whatever organization he represents, I don't think, if he was Purple Heart, I don't think Nick Francisco condones that kind of stuff.
This isn't the first time the VA Commission raised concerns over the current leadership. Mead at the last commission meeting stated, quote, I am not a believer of turning this over to a person who has no clue about veterans or anything else that we go through with the VA or anything else. And I mean the governor.
Our current director is a veteran, but doesn't have any idea of what it is to deal with the VA.
Then, last week on K57's Vet Talk, VA Commission members phoned in calling for Berdalio's resignation. Berdalio, however, calls it ironic that the VA Commission members stated they didn't want the governor to be involved in fear of the commission being politicized.
Now, who's doing the politicking here? Brian Miranda has a tough thing to do to tell those Veterans Commission, members, when you do hold a meeting, stick to what we're supposed to do. Give the director some advice, but don't use this as a bashing, because they're wondering why they can't make a quorum, because some of them are just turned up. Other veterans organizations are turned up and they don't want to join.
Jolene Toves, PNC News.
Thank you, Jolene, for that report. Tune in tomorrow as we reach out to the VA Commission for their reaction. From one issue to the next, earlier today, Archbishop Michael Burns spoke before members of the Rotary Club of Guam to discuss how the Catholic Church is addressing issues concerning the clergy's sexual abuse cases. Concerning the challenges of dealing with sexual abuse within the Catholic Church, Archbishop Burns spoke about the Virtus program, an online training program administered to clergy members as well as church volunteers and employees to help them recognize risky behaviors and report them to appropriate authorities. Burns says that the purpose of this program is to create safe environments within the parishes and the schools on the island.
There's over 2,600 people who have gone through what they call the Virtus program, which is a way of helping people understand the signs of any kind of abuse of children, to understand whether or not they're a mandatory reporter, but in any case to be alert, to prevent, but also be aware of what they need to do if somebody confides that, yes, they've been abused.
According to the Archbishop, the Archdiocese is expected to mediate its first round of sexual abuse settlements in late October. In other news, motorists will have some relief at the pumps and their wallets today. Gas prices have dropped 10 cents from $4.20 to $4.10 for a gallon of regular unleaded gasoline. 76 Circle K was the first to decrease its prices, followed by Mobil and then Shell. Just last month in July, prices had increased by 10 cents. Traditionally, if one gas company changes its prices, the other two follow suit. Meanwhile, the price for Tapis crude is now at $63 per barrel. According to the U.S. Energy Information Administration, the average price for a gallon of regular unleaded in the United States is at $2.60. Don't go away. Coming up, we'll have an update on the fiscal year 2020 budget and what will happen to the Barrigada Library. Find out when we come back.